Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. I just did a video for you with the flu mongering, as I call it. Apparently, it's the bird flu mongering. And many of you asked me about these vaccines for chickens. And I did a little digging, and we are going to look at Zoetis, which was owned by Pfizer. And Zoetis does a lot in veterinary, we'll just use the word medicine. And this is the CEO here, Kristen Peck. And I'd like you to take a wild guess at how much money Kristen Peck makes annually with bonuses and compensation. I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at this temporary, they're calling it a conditional license, interestingly, from the USDA, not from the FDA, but from the USDA for the avian influenza vaccine. And we're also going to look at, thank goodness, some of the options for taking care of this so-called illness that does not include killing all these little chicks. Then I want to share with you a replay of a video that I did that was well received because I talked about how to keep your pets safe from these products that they want to inject. And then I also talk about why I am not overly concerned. I'm somewhat concerned, but not overly concerned about all of the cocktails, as I call them, that are given to animals in our food supply. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at. And first, let's take a look at noblegoldinvestments.com. Here we are. And how fast can stock market sentiment change in an instant? Just ask NVIDIA investors, nearly 600 billion in market value wiped out overnight. No warning, no second chances. Noble Gold Investments is alerting all clients to diversify now. Market crashes don't wait. They strike fast, devastating the unprepared. But for the smart investors, they're already one step ahead, protected and prepared. For nearly a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped thousands protect their wealth with gold IRAs and physical gold. With over 2 billion in precious metal sales, Noble Gold is the trusted choice for Americans serious about their financial security. Gold is real, it's yours, and it retains value. And now when you open a qualified account, you'll receive 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins for free. My question, are you diversified? If not, when will you act? After your portfolio is down 10, 20, or 30%, or will you protect your portfolio now? The next market crash will not send a warning. So visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. I'll have a link for you in the description box below. Please give them a call at 877-646-5347. Remember, there's always a risk of any kind of investment. There's never a guarantee of any kind, but get your questions answered from the experts and find out how you can not just grow your wealth, but guard it. Friends, this is Kristen Peck, and she is the CEO of Zoetis. And there have been headlines coming out all about this conditional license from the USDA for the avian influenza vaccine. And that's what they're calling the H5N2. That sounds so official, doesn't it? Subtype. And this is the killed virus for chickens. Now, just as a reminder, over on my Instagram channel, I was showing you that, let's just hop right on over there. And several days ago, when R.F. Kennedy Jr. was going through his confirmation hearings, he very clearly stated, and I quote, "I will support the development and distribution of vaccines for the avian flu." So he is right on board with what we are hearing about right now. And for those of you that are asking whether or not I'm taking his comments out of context, let me ask you, did you listen to the confirmation hearings? I listened to all of the days of the confirmation hearings live, and then I went back and I listened to the replays, and I took the information directly from Jr., Kennedy Jr. So if you're interested, you can do that as well. So we are seeing the predictive programming that I shared in my video yesterday about the avian flu. We are seeing that this is being talked about in different conferences, in TV shows, probably in movies as well. And here we have the actual information. And this was February 14th, and I am recording today is February 20th, 2025. So Zoetis, which is a spinoff of Pfizer, announced that the USDA has issued the company a conditional license for its avian influenza vaccine, and it is labeled for use in chickens. Now, this Zoetis is making some headlines because here you have it, Kristen Peck, her compensation is $15 million. That's the average annually. So that's 7.9% salary, 92% in bonuses. And I find that very, very interesting. And I can only imagine those bonuses come from the sales. So that is a pretty hefty paycheck. Let me know if you are making $15 million a year. Now, I was encouraged to find out that the USDA is suggesting, in fact, let's go on over to the USDA Department of Agriculture website. The Secretary Rollins is hosting a roundtable with farmers to discuss avian flu and other critical issues. This is news that just came out today, published February 20th, and I'm recording February 20th. So she hosted a roundtable with 24 farmers to hear their perspective on the best approaches to combat avian flu and ultimately lower egg prices. They also discussed other issues facing farmers, including the importance of disaster relief, expanding markets, reducing input costs, and decreasing regulations. Let me share with you some information that came up. Aside from doing the vaccines on these chicks and on the chickens themselves, there has been talk also from Zoetis about increasing biosecurity. And I thought, what is biosecurity? I have never heard of that when it comes to livestock. And so I thought you might be interested in that as well. In just a moment, I'm going to share with you some comments that I made previously about how to keep your pets safe from these products that they want to inject them with, and why I personally am not as concerned about our food supply getting injected, because it's not exactly the same as having you be injected. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And we also will look at some new ways of vaccine delivery that we need to be aware of. But first, let's look at this biosecurity. So it's common sense, really. Cleanliness, wear clean clothes and shoes when handling the chickens, wash your hands before and after, clean the coop regularly, keep the area around the coop free of rodents. Let me know, do you keep chickens? What are your standard practices for keeping your chickens healthy? All of this sounds like common sense. You already know how I feel about the avian flu and other so-called, oh, excuse me, my little COVID cough here, the other viruses. So they also talk about restricting access, fencing the birds into a run with netting on top, and some other things like don't allow the wild birds to nest near the coop, keep the new birds away. And then, interestingly, report sick birds. You're supposed to report them to your local or state veterinarian if you suspect avian influenza or the exotic Newcastle disease. I haven't had a chance to research the exotic Newcastle disease. Is that different from the standard Newcastle disease? Inquiring minds want to know. So I see that this is a step in the right direction instead of the vaccinations. And again, this is a temporary, or what they are calling a conditional license from the USDA for the Zoetis new vaccine for chickens. Many of you are concerned about eating chicken that has been vaccinated, and many of you are concerned about having your own animals receive products, injected products that you don't want them to have. So stay tuned. That's exactly what I'm going to cover in my comments, that come from a video that I did previously. I did edit it a little bit for brevity. So thank you everybody for being on board. I really appreciate you. And let me know, do you have chickens? Have you had to follow any of these requirements? And what do you think about this vaccine for chickens? How do you think that is going to influence the price of eggs? Now, before I replay those clips for you, I did want to bring this to your attention that the USDA did fire staffers working on the bird flu, and now it's trying to reverse course. So, this is a story that just came out. And here we have the headlines. The US Department of Agriculture says it is trying to reverse the firing of staffers who worked on the government's response to the bird flu amidst growing concerns about its spread. Now, this is likely coming from Doge. And of course, didn't you hear that Elon Musk is not in charge of Doge? He never has been. He has nothing whatsoever to do with it. And that's because he is being investigated, or should I say, Trump is being sued for having appointed Musk to a position of what would be considered a principal officer of the government. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, we don't need no stinking confirmation hearings for RFK Jr. and others. Just appoint these people like he appointed Musk. Well, that didn't go over so well in court. So Trump's administration came out with a statement saying, oh, you've got it all wrong. Musk is just an advisor. He has nothing whatsoever to do with Doge. I'll cover that for you in an upcoming video later. But for now, it was not Musk. It was Doge, which he has nothing whatsoever to do with. And they were the ones who fired staffers, or who were behind recommending the firing of staffers working on the bird flu. And now they're trying to get these individuals back. It says within days, the agency sought to reverse some of those firings, particularly those related to its handling of the highly pathogenic avian influenza. Yes, friends, be afraid, be very, very afraid, especially if you are not a bird. And let's just hop down here. It says that there have been 68 confirmed US cases of bird flu since 2024. Certainly that is of concern. And the CDC says that current public health risk is low. Hopefully, not many animals will be culled in this action to try to prevent the spread of the bird flu. And as I just showed you moments ago, there are other biosecurity. Yes, they can't just call it sanitation and common sense. They have to give it a scary name, biosecurity precautions with the birds. All right, friends, just wanted to cover that headline for you. Now we're going to dive into some of my previous comments about how to keep your animals safe and why I personally am not overly concerned about the vaccines that are going into our food production. But I am concerned about these other delivery methods for these vaccines, which is why I always recommend when you are doing your waiver or your exemption to always include the phrase that you have an objection to all of these cocktails, whether they are injected, whether it comes in the form of a spray, a patch, a pill, or any other delivery system. We're going to be taking a look at that in just a moment. At the end of this video, since it is a replay, you will hear my little teddy bear give a bark. And I just wanted to let you know that she's enjoying eternal glory and no longer with us. She has gone over the Rainbow Bridge, but she did keep me company on many of my previous videos. Friends, let's talk about what is going on with these cocktails that are being injected or somehow introduced into our food supply. Many of you emailed me with grave concerns about cattle being injected, and you probably already know that mainstream, I think that's the right way of saying that the kind of beef and pork and chicken fish that you buy at the supermarket. It already has been vaccinated with antibiotics, if that's the right way of saying it. I did a video for you some time ago about the fish in California being vaccinated. They put things in the water. Apparently, they actually pick up the fish and inject it. And they also have been vaccinating cattle for some time. And that's how many of you were aware of the nasal assault, and to stay away from that, because that is a known method of vaccination, is putting that swab up the cow's nose. And I thought everybody knew about that, but apparently a lot of people didn't, or those people that were living in fear thought that it was a good idea to just take that other route. But let me say that there are many methods of this delivery. I'll just call it the cocktail. Although I have noticed so many presenters on YouTube that are just speaking out about this quite directly. And it's stunning to me that they don't appear to be getting strikes on their channels. So I'm still kind of treading the water a little bit here to stay squeaky clean with my language. And I think it's a little bit kind of like we outsmart the algorithm. And I like the phrases that I've come up with, like the hogwash and the nasal assault and the cooties cocktail and becoming a human pincushion. So that's sort of my own phraseology, and I'm going to stick with it. But let me tell you that there are many methods that they have done and that they are continuing to do, not only with our animals, and I did a video about the continued assault on our pets in terms of having our animals be injected with the rabies cocktail that I personally am totally against. And I gave you some ideas about that. I'll just go over that roughly. Number one, you can get an exemption from a vet if you prove, or if you can have an understanding with your vet that your animal is not medically able to sustain that. And I know people that have horses that have, had very severe reactions to this. And I would make a case for that, and to get some kind of certificate from your veterinarian. I told you the story of somebody who reused a previous certificate, unfortunately misspelled it, and it said certificate of rabies. And I made a little joke about that. That's why I call it rabies. And this person, unfortunately, had to go back to the drawing board and create a new one. And this was just to get, I think, the dog's nails trimmed or something like that. So getting your animal with the grooming, having your animal boarded, if you're traveling, having to get a license for your companion animal, all of those are, or having to get any kind of veterinarian care, all of those are ways that they are pushing to get your animal jabbed. So I talked about getting that exemption. I am not, of course, recommending reusing a certificate, but some people do. And I'll just say that probably not you smart, healthy Americans, but all y'all, the others that didn't go through the rigmarole and all of the discrimination, the harassment, under duress, the intimidation, the threats, and all of that, they probably had the fake card. I bet millions of people kept their jobs, traveled, got their medical stuff or whatever with a fake card. I'm positive of it. Or do you think there's that many people that can't think clearly and went along with it? I don't know. It's stunning to me. So some people are doing that with their animals. I'm not recommending that. I'm just letting you know about it. The other thing is that you could have a vet come to your home. If you're dealing with a veterinarian practice and they're saying, oh my gosh, your dog is going to bite my vet tech and everybody's going to get rabies and die, then you can say, well, why don't you do a house call? And then my animal is not going to infect anybody else. And the fact that it there have been no cases for centuries, it seems like. Yeah, it has been centuries, because just like the other types of diseases, that has actually never been proven to exist. I'll just put it that way. I'm getting a little bold here now. Now that the emergency that never was has been canceled, sort of. I'll probably cover that in another video. The EUA designation on the drugs still is in place. Go figure that out. So yeah, it's the ongoing emergency. Let's just never cancel it. Then we don't have to worry about calling another one. We can just live under oppression and totalitarianism forever. And that's probably what's going to happen. So those are a couple of ideas to keep your own animals safe and secure. And I realize that when you are adopting an animal from the shelter, they're already going to have them all chock full. They probably already spayed and neutered them at too young of an age, which is going to set them up for all sorts of problems down the road. And there are many veterinarians that are speaking out about this again, and how that is not a one size fits all and should not be done to every single animal. So there are more and more people now that are finding animals in different ways to have as their pet companions and not going to the shelters. Very sad. I've done videos about how they are after our animals, after our pets. They want to strip us of that enrichment that they bring to our lives. All right, it's kind of related to this because we're talking about the cocktails in the animals in our food supply. A lot of our foods already carry the label of GMO, genetically modified organism, or genetically engineered product, GE, genetically engineered. Now, people who are not as aware as you are in terms of these GMO products, they are just ingesting them on a regular basis. Isn't it stunning that when they shut the world down, they closed down where I live, TJ Maxx, and the mom and pop restaurants and stores and so forth, they made it very, very difficult for anybody to conduct business. Yet all of the fast food restaurants were open. So if they really cared about the health, wouldn't they have shut down all the fast food restaurants? Wouldn't they have mandated that everybody have exercise and healthy food and social interaction? Because we know that those are things that actually improve our health outcomes. I made a video, oh my gosh, I had to take it down because I probably got a strike. I thought it was kind of funny. And it was back in the early days. And I was making a joke saying, I was talking about one of the grocery stores that was hassling people and harassing them for breathing oxygen. And I was saying, you are selling cigarettes in your store. You're selling alcohol. You are selling junk food, potato chips and cookies and processed packaged foods. And you think that all of that is good for your health, yet you want me to suffocate myself. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, the day that you stop selling those cigarettes, the day you stop selling that alcohol and those potato chips, and the day you stop selling all of that processed packaged food, that is the day that I still will not suffocate myself. So there is nothing that would make me do that. But the hypocrisy was just astounding. I think that they're ratcheting them up and that they are trying to find any way possible to get that therapy inside your body. Now, I will say this, I am far more concerned about the cocktail methods of delivery for mass production than I am about ingesting it. And the reason why is this, but this is the way that I look at it. If I'm going to have something injected into my body, injected into my bloodstream, that has a far more serious effect than ingesting something through your digestive system. Let me give you a simple example. All right. Maybe this happened to you or somebody that you know. This happened to somebody that I know. This person was having a very severe case of hives, of a rash. And the Benadryl that you take through your stomach that goes into your body was having a very little effect. It just was not helping. And the rashes were growing and the itching was increasing. And the person was concerned that their airways would then start to close and they wouldn't be able to breathe. So as a step to prevent that, this person decided to go to the emergency room to get some kind of treatment with a steroid or something. And I'm not promoting any of this. I'm just relating a story and relaying a story that I know of. And what happened was the patient was injected, actually was intravenously given the Benadryl. And, Benadryl is an over-the-counter antihistamine. The Benadryl that came into the bloodstream started to work almost immediately. And the effect that it had was very strong, completely different than taking the Benadryl orally. That may have happened to you. You may have taken antibiotics because you had an infection. I'm not speaking for that or against it, other than I'm speaking against it, but I'm not giving you any medical advice or anything. But then there are people that will go and have intravenous, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, antibiotics pumped in through an IV, and that then they have a very dramatic result. And I know the point that I'm saying, the point that I'm making is that eating something that has this in it, in my view, is probably, not that I want it, but I think that it's probably not as severe as having it injected into you. So that's one thing to put your mind at ease if that's something that's of a huge concern to you. The second thing that you can do is you can really source your food from a clean source. Just do an internet search and you can look for, non-genetically modified food. You can, if you eat meat, you can look for sources of meat in your area that do not include antibiotics. There are small ranchers, small farmers that will, provide this kind of meat for you, probably at a much higher price. I don't know, haven't done that. But there are those that are doing that. You can get your produce at a local farmer's market. You can get to know your farmers. You can grow your own food. There are so many videos on YouTube and other channels. I saw people growing potatoes in a plastic bag in their kitchen, right? You don't really need the sun because they're in the soil. So there you can sprout beans in your kitchen window. You can grow lettuce with air and water. You don't even need any soil. So you can start to grow your own food. You could get into a co-op where people are already canning and preserving food that they created, that they grew, and then they preserved, on their farm or their homestead. So start to get into these kinds of groups. And I promise you, friends, that is going to start to balloon because we Americans are resourceful. We always find another way. Just like they had all of this crazy stuff with Uber and Lyft, and you had to suffocate yourself, and then you also have to put your social credit score. You rate the driver if they were good, and then the driver rates you if you were a good passenger. A lot of people are sick and tired of that. And I have seen, and I know people that have started out with their private driving services. I gave the example of private airlines coming online. Again, I'm not saying that the cost is available for everyone, but I'm pointing at the ingenuity, the creativity, the resourcefulness of Americans. There will be more barter. There will be, if they try to get rid of cash, more and more people are going to use cash. I know people that will only take cash now. So I don't want you to lose heart over this. There is another way. And right now, while it's available and we have the technology and you have the internet, start gathering those kinds of resources. And if you want to share them here on this channel during a chat or afterwards in the comments, that would be amazing. All right, let me do this. I want to show you a couple of other things that I would be more concerned about. And this is the what they are doing in the delivery. All right, I did a video on this some time ago called new methods for the vaccine delivery. And I'll just do a quick review here so that you won't be caught off guard. So here we have the nasal spray, and they're doing it for the flu, but why wouldn't they do it for anything else? And look at this. All of the nasal spray for 22-23 are quadrivalent, meaning they are designed to protect against 4 of the, I'm sorry, I can't say this word without laughing because it's just never been proven to exist. So it really makes me laugh. And if you still don't, if you are still not sure about what I'm talking about, if my friends would leave the names of the doctors that you should look at, there is a lovely woman, Dr. Sam, and you can look at Dr. Andy. I have to be careful with the words I'm using here. I've heard of people getting strikes just for mentioning them. Dr. Tom is another one. I have been on interviews with all of them. And maybe, I don't know if they have all the answers, but they certainly have some good questions. And that is a place to start. All right, how about this one? A 3D printed patch offers the cocktail without a shot. And this is coming from Carolina and Stanford University. This was 2021, this came out. And you know that is something that they've probably been working on for some time. Here's another one. All right, here's one that you could swallow. The RNA, easier to swallow. This was a pill that releases the RNA in the stomach, could offer a new way to administer the cocktails. So they're already trying to do this, friends. They're not going to stop. I'm just saying, friends, when we're talking about the cocktails and we're talking about the powers that shouldn't be wanting to get those cocktails into our body, whether through a patch, I'm trying to tie together the entire video, which I know went off into a few different places. They're trying to get it through us in the cocktail. They're trying to get it into us with a patch, with a spray, with a pill, in the food, and then a needle-free mass program. All right, I'm going to leave you on that note, friends. Thanks for being on board with me. Be sure to get on my free Substack. I cover a lot of this in depth. in a written format with links. You can read it at your own pace. You can share, you can reflect upon it. It's another way of getting the information out. And as far as I know right now, Substack is pretty censorship free. All right, that's my teddy bear telling me it's time to wrap it up. I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.